Myra's day began like any other, except for the strange creaking sound from her father's old study. The room had always been off-limits, her late father's sanctuary, locked since his death. That morning while cleaning, she found the door slightly ajar. Curious and defiant, she stepped in. Dust blanketed the shelves, and the scent of mothballs lingered in the air. On the far end of the mahogany desk was a drawer she'd never seen before, half concealed behind loose woodwork. It wouldn't open no matter how hard she pulled. But what startled her more was the faded note taped beside it. "Only truth unlocks me." That cryptic message haunted Myra for days. She questioned her mother, who brushed it off with trembling hands and averted eyes. Something wasn't right. That night, Myra dreamt of her father, his voice urging her to seek what he had hidden, to finish what he started. The following day, Myra began searching every corner of the house for clues. She didn't know yet that unlocking the drawer would unravel secrets that could break her family, or rebuild it. In her search, Myra stumbled upon a tattered journal wedged between books in the attic. The cover bore her father's initials, and the first page started with a chilling line: "They will come for it if they find out." She flipped through pages filled with coded symbols, hidden maps, and frantic handwriting. One entry hinted at a key hidden in "the place we least look," the fireplace. As Myra read, her pulse quickened. Who were they? What had her father protected? Myra dismantled the fireplace brick by brick until her fingers scraped cold steel. A tiny brass key lay embedded in the ash. With trembling hands, she tried it on the mysterious drawer. It clicked, but only halfway. The drawer resisted, as though waiting for more than just a key. Frustrated and scared, Myra began to suspect her father's past held darker truths than she could imagine. And yet, something inside her burned to know more. She was already too deep to turn back. In the storage room, Myra found an antique music box her mother had always kept locked in her bedroom. With new determination, she picked the lock and inside found a letter addressed to "My dearest Myra." Her heart raced as she read. Her father warned her that there were enemies within the family. "Trust no one. Not even your mother until you know the whole truth." The letter hinted at a family feud that began long before Myra was born, centered around something of immense value hidden inside their very home. The shock of suspecting her own mother was unbearable. Myra confronted her, but her mother's tears only deepened the mystery. "He was obsessed with that thing," her mother whispered. "It tore him apart. Don't follow his footsteps." But Myra couldn't let go. Her father's journal, the half-open drawer, and now this letter. They were calling her toward something forgotten. Something dangerous. Desperate, Myra returned to the study and stomped the floor in frustration. One board echoed differently. She pried it open and found a brittle parchment carefully wrapped in oilskin. It was an old map of their house, but not quite. Hidden rooms, secret passageways, and a red X marked beneath what looked like the basement. Myra had never seen a basement. That night, she tore through the kitchen pantry and found a trapdoor beneath a sack of rice. She descended into darkness with only a flashlight. The air was damp, heavy with secrets. Dust-covered crates lined the room, and cobwebs danced in the light. At the center of the room lay a stone pedestal, empty but carved with her family crest. Whatever had once rested on it was gone or moved. But what truly terrified her was a faint voice behind her. "You shouldn't be here." She spun around, heart hammering. It was her cousin, Darren. And from the look in his eyes, he'd been waiting for this moment. Myra froze as Darren stepped forward, his face a mix of pity and warning. "You don't know what you're looking for, do you?" he said coldly. Myra demanded answers, but he simply gestured to the pedestal. "It was supposed to be mine," he spat. "He promised it to me. Until you were born." Shocked, Myra realized her father had entrusted her with something that was meant to remain buried. Darren confessed he'd been waiting for years, watching the house, waiting for someone to unlock the puzzle. Their argument grew heated, echoing off the stone walls. Myra accused him of spying, of betrayal. Darren warned her, Once you find it, you'll understand the curse it carries. With that, he turned and disappeared through a hidden passage. Shaken, Mira now understood. This wasn't just a family secret. It was a legacy others would kill for. She was entangled in something far more dangerous than she imagined. But turning back was no longer an option. After Darren vanished, Mira explored the hidden passage he disappeared into. The narrow tunnel snaked beneath the house, ending at a rusted vault door embedded in stone. The symbols from her father's journal were carved into the steel, glowing faintly in her flashlight's beam. A single word stood out. Redemption. Mira whispered it aloud, and the vault creaked open, revealing a small chamber filled with documents, photographs, and artifacts she didn't recognize. Among the items was a wooden box engraved with her name. Inside lay a single gold coin and a scroll bearing a strange insignia. The scroll revealed a shocking truth. Her father had been the last guardian of a centuries-old treasure passed down through bloodlines. Each generation was tasked with protecting it from corrupt hands, especially from within the family. Mira realized her journey wasn't just about uncovering a secret. It was about protecting something sacred. That night, Mira acted normal, though her mind raced. She needed time to decode the scroll. At dinner, her mother served a special meal, claiming it was a peace offering. Mira hesitated. Something was off. Her mother's hands trembled, and she avoided eye contact. Mira pretended to eat but later snuck the food into the trash. Hours later, her vision blurred and her stomach cramped violently. She collapsed, barely able to crawl to her room. In the chaos, she realized Darren wasn't her only enemy. Her mother had tried to poison her. Myra's father had been right all along. She couldn't trust anyone. As she recovered, Mira vowed she wouldn't stop until she understood the full weight of the treasure and why her own family would try to destroy her for it. Survival was no longer enough. She needed to outsmart them. The following evening, a mysterious man appeared at the gate, claiming to have known her father. He introduced himself as Malcolm, a historian and member of an ancient order that protected treasures like the one in her family's home. He'd been tracking her father's line since his death. Mira was wary, but Malcolm's knowledge of the map, vault, and scroll convinced her to listen. He revealed the treasure was not gold or jewels, but a coded archive of truths buried by colonial powers, evidence that could rewrite the history of Nigeria and restore power to its rightful hands. Many wanted it destroyed. Some wanted to use it to control. Myra's father had hidden it so his daughter could choose wisely. Now it was in Myra's hands and time was running out. Mira decided to trust Malcolm and began deciphering the scroll with his help. Days passed and their bond deepened. But Mira found a hidden compartment in Malcolm's bag containing photographs of her father. Some marked, "Eliminate." Betrayal stung deep. She confronted him and his mask slipped. He wasn't from the order but a relic hunter sent to steal the treasure. They fought, and Mira barely escaped with the scroll and coin. Gasping and injured, she realized how naive she had been. She had no allies now. The burden was hers alone. But in that clarity, her resolve hardened. If everyone wanted the treasure for themselves, she would protect it with everything she had, just like her father did. Using clues from the scroll and her father's journal, Mira discovered a riddle embedded in the symbols. With old books and online resources, she cracked it. The coin was the key to a hidden compartment in the vault's floor. Heart pounding, she returned and inserted the coin into a tiny hole she hadn't noticed before. The ground shifted, revealing a staircase that spiraled downward. At the bottom, a glass casing held a leather-bound tome, the testament of a buried nation. Inside were maps, names, treaties, stolen documents, and lost stories. Records of an ancient kingdom erased by colonizers. Mira gasped. This was it, the treasure. Could change everything. But the moment she touched it, alarms blared above. Someone had triggered the final trap. They were coming. Mira rushed upstairs and bolted the hidden passage shut. But her mother and Darren were already waiting, furious and armed. "Hand it over, Mira," her mother snarled. Darren stepped forward, greed shining in his eyes. You don't even know what you're holding. Mira stalled, pretending to surrender, but secretly activated a failsafe her father had mentioned in the journal, a hidden camera streaming everything live to a secure cloud. As the confrontation escalated, Mira revealed the live feed. If anything happens to me, the whole world sees the truth. Panic flashed across her mother's face. Darren lunged, but Mira dodged, causing him to smash into a bookshelf. Mira fled the room, hiding the book in a decoy safe beneath the garden statue. The real treasure, she knew, was the truth itself, and she wasn't ready to die for it yet. Later that night a fire broke out. The study, the vault, and most of the attic went up in flames. Mira barely escaped. Firefighters claimed it was an electrical fault, but Mira knew better. It was her mother's final act, burning the evidence. Mira grieved the loss, but not all was gone. She still had the scroll, the coin, and the real treasure hidden outside. She moved out the next day, leaving the cursed house behind. In a new apartment, she began scanning the book, creating backups and studying the names. The burden grew heavier. If she exposed it all, powerful people would be ruined. If she hid it, history would stay buried. Mira now held the balance of power between truth and silence. A week later, Mira received a mysterious envelope with a flash drive. It contained a video of her father, bloody, handcuffed, and pleading. A voice behind the camera said, "You keep the treasure, your father dies in memory. Release it, and we clear his name." The footage was dated 2 weeks before his death. Mira was crushed. Her father had died for this. Her mother had lied about his heart failure. Mira now knew she had to dig deeper, even if it meant exposing her own blood. She started contacting journalists, historians, and human rights lawyers, all under aliases. Slowly, she assembled a team she could trust. She wouldn't let her father die in vain. Mira released the first batch of documents anonymously. Colonial contracts, names of stolen artifacts, maps of looted lands. The media went into a frenzy. Government officials scrambled, denials flooded in, but the evidence was undeniable. Mira watched from her hideout, trembling with both fear and pride. She had done it, but it came at a price. Her face was leaked by a traitor in her circle. Death threats poured in. Her apartment was broken into. She barely escaped. Mira went underground, moving from town to town, never staying long. But wherever she went, people began whispering her name. The girl who shook the truth free. In a flash drive hidden inside the scroll's casing, Mira found her father's final message. He spoke directly to her, eyes full of tears. "I knew this would cost me everything. But if you're watching this, it means you survived. And that means I didn't die for nothing. The truth will always be our treasure, Mira. Use it wisely." The message left Mira sobbing. She realized she had found more than a treasure. She had rediscovered her father's love, his courage, and his unshakable hope. She vowed to fulfill his final wish. Expose every truth, no matter the cost. The path ahead was dangerous. But Mira was no longer afraid. Authorities arrested Myra's mother and Darren after new evidence surfaced. Both were implicated in forgery, bribery, and attempted murder. At the trial, Mira testified bravely. The court fell silent when she played her father's recorded message. The jury wept. The verdict was clear, guilty. Mira walked out of the courtroom with a bitter heart. Justice was served, but the scars remained. Her family was broken beyond repair. Yet deep inside she felt freer than ever. The chains of silence had been shattered. Her journey had just begun. International organizations reached out. The documents Mira released prompted governments to return stolen artifacts. Hidden histories began resurfacing. Schools updated textbooks. A cultural revolution began. One Mira had unknowingly ignited. Her name trended globally. Some called her a hero, others a threat. Mira refused interviews. She let the truth speak for itself. Fame wasn't her goal. She continued working behind the scenes, guiding historians and preserving forgotten narratives. She had become the guardian her father had once been. And she wore that role with quiet pride. Years later, Mira visited her father's grave for the first time in peace. She carried with her a framed photograph of them, taken before everything fell apart. "I kept my promise," she whispered. A soft breeze rustled the trees, as though her father answered back. Just then a young girl approached her, a niece she had never met, Darren's daughter. "I want to know the truth," the girl said. Mira knelt and smiled. "Then you've come to the right person." The legacy would continue, this time guided by wisdom, not greed. Mira established a museum with her father's name, a sanctuary for recovered stories, artifacts, and memories. The first exhibit, the treasure book and coin, encased in bulletproof glass. Visitors wept, learned, and left transformed. Schoolchildren read their own histories for the first time. Mira stood back, watching it all unfold. From a dusty drawer to an entire movement. It hadn't been easy. It had nearly cost her life. But now the treasure lived, not in gold but in minds. And that, Mira thought, was the most valuable thing of all. In her journal, Mira wrote, "The real treasure was never beneath our feet. It was always the truth we were too afraid to face. The past is painful, but when we dare to open it, we unlock the power to heal and grow. That's to what my father knew. That's what I now understand." She closed the journal and placed it beside her father's. Another chapter completed. Another truth passed on. The world had changed. And Mira, once just a curious girl in a quiet house, had changed with it. Her father's legacy was safe. And so was the treasure. The moral lesson of this story is that sometimes the most powerful treasure is the truth we choose to protect, even when it costs us everything. What we pass to the next generation should not be silence, but courage. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel and write where you are watching from. Only on African Tales by DeFloras. Thank you.